Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday. It's the 14th of July, and it's time for the Diablocritics.
And the 15th of July. I can't help it. I can't help it.
Oh, right. Yes. Sorry.
I'm
We are broadcasting live from Australia, so it's the 15th of
From the
July.
15th.
Isn't it?
Yeah, we're
That's right.
broadcasting
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
future.
In the future.
The future is looking bright. Let me tell you that.
Oh, very
Well,
good.
actually, no, it's not bright.
So-
It's quite dark, but yeah.
It's only
Yeah,
2
we know how
2
early it
a.m.
is,
now.
David.
in Australia. So,
It's going to be 1 a.m.
as
in
I'm-
just an hour. So
It is.
Yeah, it gives.
As I'm learning, time works differently in Australia.
Mm,
Apparently, I'm
yep.
discovering this. So, how is everyone? You
Good.
doing good?
Yeah.
All good. You've been traveling, Dan. You're home for a bit.
home for a week, and then I've got 2 trips that I'm heading out for starting next Friday. So, including San Diego Comic-Con. I am
Nice.
Oh,
stoked
beauty!
to go do the San Diego Comic-Con for the first time ever. So, very excited about that.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Are you gonna find some time to meet up with our good friend Vishanti while you're out there? I think she's.
I think we she had mentioned something earlier. Don't know about that. We are aiming. I think we're aiming more directly for SBL, which
God.
is also in
Yeah.
San Diego.
Yeah, it
this
is.
year. So that's the big one. That's everybody's got to make
Yeah.
the San Diego SBL.
I wish, but yes,
Mhm.
it's hard to fund these things
It is.
yourself.
It is. Really.
So I never realized how much I loved institutional funding until it was gone.
Mhm, mhm,
So
Yeah.
but, yeah. Anyways,
mhm.
we're not here to talk about all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's nice to have you back today, Dave.
Yeah.
It's good to see you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been.
You
I
got
haven't been
the,
on stream for like 5-6 weeks. I been
Oh, wow.
sick and battling some
Oh.
mental health stuff, but
Sorry to hear
yeah, I'm
that.
feeling a lot better. So
Good.
yeah. I had a virus, and I I get out of bed, and I went to bed with a little bit of vertigo, and I
Mm.
woke up at 3 a.m. to go to the toilet, and immediately like fell over and couldn't walk because of how
Oh,
bad
no.
the vertigo was,
That's
and
that-
immediately
Wow.
spit into a panic attack. So I'm crawling to the bathroom because I'm like, I'm gonna vomit. Amy's like, it's vertigo, it's vertigo. I'm having a panic attack, like I can't walk, I have something wrong. and then spent 3
terrible.
days in bed, like with my eyes closed, because yeah, the vertigo was so bad.
that
So,
intense.
yeah,
Wow.
it was
Wow.
brutal. I thought like I
That sounds
could, like,
terrible.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So took a little bit of time off. I was still a bit sick, but yeah, ready to rock. Excited.
Wow.
Wow. That's
Yeah, that's
right.
good.
Thank you for joining
Good to
us.
have you back. Yeah, for sure.
If you all of a sudden like fall over, we'll understand that it's just
Yeah. It's just Dave.
I texted my friends again. I was like, "Look, I'm religious again because I've experienced hell, so I'm convinced of an afterlife."
has begun already.
Yeah.
In there.
Cried out to
Yeah.
God, help!
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're still missing Dr. Matthew Monger is still recovering from his back issues, but and I don't know if he's watching or not, but we still miss you, Matt.
Yeah.
Hope you get back out and hit the golf course again soon. So yeah, but it's summer, which is pretty great, and we're still here. So I will let's just talk about what we're doing today. We decided to switch things up a little bit, and all of us are kind of diving into Dan's world here today. We're going to take on TikTok, and we're gonna fix it all today, just in this one show.
The 5 of us taking on TikTok.
Yeah, we got a few videos on TikTok to look at, and I have purposely not watched any of them because I want to be able to make the same faces that Dan does when we watch the videos. So yeah, but just to give everyone a rundown of what's going on today. We are a group of biblical scholars and enthusiasts in antiquity who have taken this time. The Diablocritics is a once a month show where we talk about bad biblical scholarship and apologetics, and we are happy to address your questions. So if you have any questions on any topics related to the Bible that you would like to ask any of us, please throw those into the chat. Super chats will get priority, and we will tackle those at the end. But we're going to spend some time to start with just watching some TikTok videos. So, but maybe before we start, if everyone can just kind of give a short introduction to who we are and what we're doing. Why don't you start, Dan?
Sure thing. My name's Dan McClellan. I go by @McClellan, spelled McLellan on social media. I'm a public scholar of the Bible and religion, and I basically try to increase public access to the academic study of the Bible and religion and combat the spread of misinformation about the same. So my job, my my job security is
there, wasn't it?
Some kind of slip. Yeah. I don't know if it extends all the way to Freudian, but my job security is locked down. So
indeed,
yeah,
there's no shortage of misinformation, as you will see today.
Indeed. Josh.
Yes, I'm Joshua Bowen. I'm an Assyriologist and Hebrew Bible guy. I do a lot of counter-apologetic stuff online. My wife runs Digital Hammurabi, and she is the podcast host of the Bart Ehrman Misquoting Jesus podcast. So, she's the popular one, but I'm here because she's expensive. So,
we tried to get her on. It was outside of the budget. It was rough. So, and if anybody ever has if everyone is ever interested in how to stump Josh, like just ask him a question about slavery. That'll do.
Leaves him speechless. Yeah.
I am excited, and I guess we can talk about it at the end, but I am excited about this video that's coming out on Paula Gia's channel pretty soon.
Oh my God! Yes, we can talk about it later.
I was going to say, do you want to say more than that, or just?
We'll tell you guys at the end. It's pretty awesome. Jen, yeah.
Hi, I am Dr. Jennifer Bird. I'm a biblical scholar. I am New Testament early Christianity by training. I bring feminist and post-colonial and materialist lenses to what I do, which means I care about the way people apply these biblical texts, often uncritically or through an apologetic lens, into their lives, and therefore cause harm and lots of damage. So that's what I like to address in my own way as often as I can.
Fixing damage
or preventing it,
or preventing it. And there's no shortage of that either.
Right. That's right.
Is there? So, yeah. Hey, Dave, do you want to say something about?
I've
who you are.
And McDonald. I run the channel Deep Drinks podcast, where I have conversations with guests over a drink of their choice, and I have a distinguished certificate in Christian ministries, which is the highest of qualifications, of course. No, I'm here, just giving my own opinions, uneducated opinions, and we need a little bit of that, I think, in this panel of. What did I call you, Josh, when you first came on Deep Drinks? I call you biblical elite. You're a biblical elite. So
I mean, anybody that has a BS in religion, like I do. Why are you guys laughing? I don't understand.
I've been told I'm part of the cabal that goes to the biblical scholars cabal, out to control the.
Oh yeah, a lot of Ammon Hillman's fans have told me some stuff about UKIP that I didn't realize. That, it was really interesting comments from that community of people.
I kind of hope. Yes, and apparently, no, I kind of hope I have made my last Amon Hillman video. I really hope so. But yeah, so I don't know. Why don't we dive in and surprise us, David, with what we've got on deck?
I've in no particular order. Let's play the first clip that I clicked on, which is I think it might be your one, Dr. Kip.
Oh, that's exciting.
Is this your one?
Oh yes, that one is mine. That one is mine.
Let me know if everyone can, if you can't hear it. Okay.
This is El, a Near Eastern god. Not just any god. He is the Most High God. El Elyon in the Bible is what it's called.
Again, assuming this idol is the same El or Adonai we find in the Bible is like assuming that Jesus of Gnostic texts is the same as the historical Jesus that we find in the canonical Gospels.
Hey, can you pause it there for a second?
He has a knot.
That was weird, right? Because as a non-expert, let me be the one who first kicks this off. No, but that's weird, right? The Gnostic, he's creating like this line between Gnostic texts and canonical texts.
Well, he's also suggesting that the historical Jesus is the Jesus in the Gospel.
The Gospels, right.
100% is not. I mean, saying that's the Gnostic Jesus, not the historical Jesus. No, you're talking about the Jesuses of the Gospels.
That's right.
And
that's
the Jesuses of the Gnostic texts are on the same level. They're all just riffing on and negotiating with what has come down to them from whatever remains of the historical Jesus or the tradition that developed after his death. So there's a lot of presupposition going on there.
Are you saying that's a false equivalency, Dan?
Well, yeah, and even also talking about El and saying the El of the Bible or Adonai is also presupposing the distinction that is being argued for between El and Adonai, which is problematic. I know we just started in the beginning or the middle of this video. I don't know if Michael discusses that earlier in the video, but he seemed to gloss right over the fact that he was just asserting their identification.
Yeah. Well, let's continue and see what else he has to say. So here this guy's just talking about how El is the father of. Yeah.
He has a knot.
Yeah. And that's one of the many reasons we know this is not the same El we read about in the Bible.
One of his children, many of you don't know is his children, and it is Yahweh. That's going to really bother a lot of people.
There are no biblical or ancient texts that ever say Adonai was the son of El. That is a conjecture based on insufficient data. Some of our earliest biblical texts, like Numbers 23:8, even tell us that El is just another name for Adonai.
Don't believe me. That
do we want to stop there?
Sure.
So
I just feel like
there's a lot, right?
Dan's got something
It's just
to say
weird. The layers are kind of weird here. Yeah.
Yeah. The argument that Numbers 23:8 is one of our earliest biblical texts. It's like 8th century at the earliest. And I argue that this is post conflation of the two deities. But Deuteronomy 32:8, I and many critical scholars have long argued distinguishes the two deities, and I know that obviously we're going to be getting to that. But
you'd like to think that, Dan.
But did he? I'm curious if because I saw another video where somebody was responding to the distinction of Adonai and El argument, and they appealed to They appealed to Genesis 14:22. Does Michael? Does he appeal to that?
He doesn't talk about Genesis 14.
Okay, because
I don't.
Anytime somebody's like Genesis 14:22, it's like smack. Haven't done the reading very clearly. So it talks about Elyon. Melchizedek is a priest of Elyon and all this. And then in verse 22, it equates Adonai with Elyon in the Masoretic tradition. The Septuagint, the Genesis Apocryphon don't mention Adonai at all. Scholars are in pretty widespread agreement that's a late change. And so there's instability. There's textual instability at some of the places where they argue for the identification of both deities. But irrespective, both deities were probably conflated around the 10th century BCE. So anything written after that is already going to have them identified. So it's not evidence of anything to say, look at Numbers 23, which is not even close to one of our earliest Hebrew Bible
Yeah,
texts.
I mean, to sort of
It really isn't.
to sort of take a step back, I feel like from a methodological standpoint, and it's probably on both parts of this video, right? Both participants in this video, the person that's producing, I mean, that's doing the original, and then Mike. But like, there's a layer of nuance that's just not being applied here, it seems. So just the basic distinction between what we know from Israelite history and canonical biblical history, right? Hebrew Bible history, that being the wrong word there, but the presentation, their theological presentations, and what we know from ancient Israelite history of religion are often very, very different. And again, Dan, you could talk about this, and Kip, you could talk. You have a course in this, don't you, Kip?
I do.
An eye bleeding, is that what it is? Eye bleeding course. I think that's how you describe
Ear
it.
splitting. And
Yeah, that's what it is. But no, I mean, like, you know, this idea that however you take Deuteronomy 32, for example, whether you're taking it as a, you know, the writer trying to, you know, bring the two together for theological purposes, or whether you see the distinction, however it is that somebody takes it, I mean, it's clear that there's a difference between ancient Israelite religion and what the canonical texts are doing as a whole, right? However we want to present that. And so that level of nuance, you know, to go to Numbers 23 or to, it's sort of, as you guys said, operating on the presupposition that I think is just not nuanced at all.
Yeah, and we already saw that with the assertion that the Gospels present the historical Jesus.
Right,
And so
right.
obviously the Hebrew Bible presents the historical Israelite religion.
Of course. Of course.
Is not the same as Yahweh, and El is the father of Yahweh, then you need to go and read the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Nowhere in the Dead Sea Scrolls does it say that El is the father of Adonai.
It states in there, I believe in Deuteronomy, that Yahweh was not only just one of the children of El, but that El gave him a portion of humanity.
That is not what it says. Verses 8 and 9 say, when the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, when he divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the peoples, according to the number of the sons of God. But the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is allotted heritage.
Oh, can
Nowhere in
you
this
pause it
passage
there,
does it see the name
David?
Pause there.
Because there's some translational. Can you bring that back up? Actually, 'cause
There's some textual issues
translational
as well here.
and some textual things. Why don't you do the? Do you want to do the textual issues, Dan? And
Sure.
then I can
Well,
talk about my
the
beef with
translation issue, yeah.
translation. Yeah.
So the reason the original creator said that the Dead Sea Scrolls attest to this particular interpretation is because if you look in like the King James Version or a more traditional translation, it's going to, verse 8 is going to end by saying, according to the number of the children of Israel. But we have in the Septuagint, it says the angels of God, which is a head scratcher, but scholars have noted for a long time, hey, the translators of the Septuagint liked to take the Hebrew B'nai Elohim and render angels of God. So they took sons of God and changed it to angels of God. And so for a long time, people have suggested the original text probably said the children of God. And then we discovered 4Q Deuteronomy J, a fragment that has this passage that says precisely that, Elohim on the end. But the other issue is there's a but at the beginning of verse 9 that suggests we're changing positions here. We're kind of pivoting. And so we're talking about the children of God inheriting stuff. However, but we've got this disjunction. But the Septuagint doesn't have but there. The Septuagint has Keagonithi, which is usually the Greek's translation of Vayehi, which would just be the kind of narrative particle that you use for continuing, and or something like that. So the disjunction is problematic in itself. It should be, according to my argument, if the Septuagint is preserving a more original reading, according to the number of the sons of God and Adonai's portion is his people, Jacob, his share of the inheritance. And just the fact that you've got a share of the inheritance is suggestive that you are receiving it from someone else. You do not divide up an inheritance and then go, oh, I will give my inheritance to myself. That's not how it works.
Even in the Hebrew, so I was going, that was great, but I was going to point out that even in the Hebrew text, it's key.
It's key, which can be interpreted
right?
a few different ways. Yeah.
Right. And honestly, I don't, but is usually not the first word that comes to my mind when I'm approaching a text that's like this is usually like a resultative clause or it's almost never or very rarely like
disjunction.
A disjunction.
That's like because or since.
Yeah, exactly, right?
And so as a result, something like that.
Exactly. Are you familiar? He didn't put it on the screen. Are you familiar with which translation this is?
I don't think so. Hang on just a second.
Okay.
Also, do you like that it's Deuteronomy 23?
I like that too.
Does it say 23 there?
It does, actually.
Oh, a simple mistake. Although I've got to say, Mike's editing is phenomenal. I have quite a bit of envy for the editing of these videos.
Yeah, it's.
I only point that out because historically there's sort of a thing with Michael putting things up backwards.
He does do that.
Oh well, if that's a result of oh shoot, I can't even think anymore because I have this problem as well sometimes.
He typed it in using his Hebrew keyboard, I think, is what happened.
Well, if it's a disability, if it's dyslexia or something like that, I do that sometimes as well.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a disability. I don't think. Do you know what I think it is? Like he reads so much. Like the amount of like strange and bizarre, like moral philosophy like books that he's got. Like we've chatted a lot about it. He has like a shotgun approach, and I think his mind is just scattered, just always scattered. That's what I think. Mike, his brain's always scattered. Is what I'm going with.
So this is the ESV.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
it's a great
problematic. As long as you're not a woman.
Right.
But yeah, we have King James version says for, the NASB says for the Lord. ASV says for Jehovah's portion is his people. NIV says for the Lord's portion. So
NIV,
went and found a translation that used a more disjunctive transition.
Yeah, he did
to verse 9.
Yeah, I would say inappropriately so. All right, let's finish this one up.
Let me know if it's still too quiet. I don't know what I can do, but yeah, just let us know.
We just see the Hebrew title for Most High. And it also doesn't say the Most High gave Adonai an inheritance, as even Otto Eichfeld had to admit. The author of the song, it is true, when speaking of Adonai's relationship to his people, avoids probably intentionally the application of the hitherto used active verbal form, and so does not say directly that Elion gave Israel or Jacob to Adonai as his portion, but is content to establish the fact that Israel has become the property of Adonai. And the scholar Mark S. Smith notes the author did not intend a polytheistic outlook, and probably saw El and Elion simply as two titles for Adonai. In other words, the biblical author of Deuteronomy 32 did not write that El is the father of Adonai, and there's no reason to think he intended that understanding.
I think that's right?
I would suggest there's plenty of reason, and one Eisfeld was writing almost 70 years ago.
Right.
We've moved on from Eisfeld a long time ago, and then Smith is the only other contemporary scholar who's going to side with Michael in here, and even that's a little fuzzy. Like I've talked to Mark about this, and Mark has kind of shifted a bit in his thinking on Deuteronomy 32, but I would say it's not as simple as the binary that Michael is trying to paint here. But an additional reason I think that there is reason to think Adonai is being represented as one of the B'nai Elohim is the divine profiles that we have associated with El and Adonai. El is the patriarchal, benevolent high deity in the Canaanite pantheon. Adonai is represented as a youthful warrior storm deity corresponding to Baal.
Yeah.
The Northwest Semitic storm deity, who is part of the second tier of the Israelite pantheon, who is one of the B'nai Elohim. And so it fits to have Adonai in their earliest history in the nation of Israel as a member of the second tier, the B'nai Elohim. And additionally, we have attestation of El Israel as far back as around 1208, 1210 BCE with the Meneptah Stele. We have absolutely no attestation of any deity named Adonai until over 300 years later, when suddenly it pops up in the Mesha inscription and in some theophoric elements of some names of kings that we see in Black Obelisk of Shalmaneser III and the Tel Dan Stele. And scholars pretty widely agree that Adonai seems to have been a secondary addition to the Israelite pantheon, a newcomer to the scene, probably brought by the Shasu or someone migrating into the Northern Hill Country. So, like, if you want to just isolate these considerations and be like, there's no reason to think this, great. But for folks who are widely read and are looking at the data and the scholarship more broadly and all of the integrated other scholarship that is involved with it, like, you are swimming against the current to make this argument.
It feels like a bit of a quote mine of Mark Smith's book too, right? Like, the book is a Godin translation, which is all about how people are negotiating with this polytheistic Canaanite heritage in the construction of these biblical texts. And I think even in his discussion of Deuteronomy 32, I believe that the quote that Michael pulled from the book was not even part of his detailed discussion of Deuteronomy 32, which happens in another chapter. But even there, he's nuancing that. Yeah, there it is. It's a very good book. But he's nuancing that even quite a bit. Like, he's juxtaposing that with texts like Psalm 82, and showing that there is clearly this normative polytheistic milieu operative in Israel behind this text. But yeah,
is it
nuanced?
Also presupposing? What's that word you always used, Dan?
Univocality.
Yeah, is it presupposing that as well?
Yeah, a lot of that, I think. I mean, with the Numbers 23 passage, right?
Yeah. So let me. I'm looking at Mark's argument, because there's a lengthy discussion of Psalm 82 and Deuteronomy 23, and this is a phenomenal book, by the way. It's all about how the Hebrew Bible, its conceptualization of God begins like more in agreement with what's going on in the other nations, and then there is a rejection of the translatability of God across these national borders, where suddenly we've got to treat God as distinct. But and even Mark says on page 141, the vast majority of scholars who have addressed verses 8 through 9 view option 1, which is B'nai Israel, as a deliberate alteration to avoid the picture of polytheism. So the reason that the Masoretic text changed to Sons of Israel is because the reading Children of God suggests that, well, we've got polytheism here and we've got a different God at the head. In this picture, El Elyon is the head God who oversees the division of the world into nations given to the various gods of the world. And in this scenario, Adonai is one of the gods who receives his inheritance from El Elyon. So, like, even this book acknowledges the consensus view is that you can also look in Fleming's Adonai before Israel. You can look in the too soon departed Robert Miller's Adonai Origin of a Desert God. You can look in The Origins of Yahwism. You can look in Ted Lewis's The Origins and Character of God. They all recognize this is the consensus view. So yeah, but only presenting Eisfelt and Smith as establishing the consensus is cherry picking.
You know how Twitter has that new feature where people can a community can correct posts that are happening? We need something like that, but for to show how close someone's opinion is to consensus. We need a little graph that's this is really close to consensus, or this is way off left field, because people like myself, I have no idea. I just go, Dr. Josh says this, so I'm going to go with that because I know Dr. Josh personally. But it's you know what I mean? How do people like myself work out what consensus is, or it's really difficult.
I'm still sitting on a large scale survey that will poll thousands of biblical scholars about what their positions are on a bunch of different questions. So we're trying to get something like that in place.
Just make sure you get all the English PhDs, right? English literature PhDs.
Get them too. Yes. Yeah, they're very important. Yep. So, yeah. All right, should we watch another one?
Yeah, the next one we have, I'm not sure whose this is.
I'm excited. I haven't seen this one or any of them from here on out.
Oh, this is
nice.
Nice.
Gosh.
Oh, how exciting. Oh.
Let us know if it's a good volume.
In a time when the world thinks men and women are interchangeable and equal, allow me to remind you three things only.
I mean, that's not what anyone's arguing for. We want to be treated equally, not okay, keep going. Not
this
interchangeable.
Is going to be fun because I spent I'm not kidding. I spent the entire last week just watching interviews with Doug Wilson and what's his name, Joel Webbin of Right Response Ministries. So I feel like my brain is
saturated,
is thoroughly saturated to tackle this. I'm ready for it, Jen.
Okay.
That is so. What a weird world.
Yeah.
This person must live in. Anyway.
I'm going to remind you three things only a father can do. Number one, preside. Sure, anyone can perform leadership.
Sorry.
No, I'm just going to go ahead and do a little spoiler. He never says inseminate. That is the one thing only a father can do. Okay.
I thought he was going to say pee accurately standing up.
Right. No, he doesn't ever say inseminate, and I impregnate anything like that. I just need to say it. Okay.
What does preside mean?
Do we need? I want the definition.
He's gonna explain a little bit.
He will.
Go ahead, Jen.
I want to look. Yeah, Oxford's very short definition is in a position of authority in a meeting or other gathering. Okay, roll it.
Leadership duties, but God uniquely equipped men for the act of presiding and ruling over a home. He's given them hormonal and biological capacity for greater discernment, rational thinking, risk-taking, and assertiveness, making them extremely capable leaders when under God's guidance.
Okay, can you pause?
Pause. Yeah. I have two websites, so I will go ahead. You were saying something.
No, this is your video, Jen. Go ahead.
So I went and looked up he's going to talk about testosterone. Well, he didn't specifically say testosterone. He's going to say it next time too, in number 2, but it applies to 1 and 2. So I put a link in on hormonal influences on cognition. So is that the second one or is that this one? He just skipped right over that, or he said it right. We didn't.
Yeah.
Biological capacity, greater discernment, rational thinking, risk taking. So there's a link to the role of hormones in these cognitive functions. Let's see, that's National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology Information. And then I also have from the Harvard Health Publishing website, I have a link on the role of testosterone. Obviously, it's not just women have testosterone as well. I know that the people here know that. It's a little bit odd to me that he doesn't know that. So, and then there's all of my life experiences where I just want to just say, then I must be a male because I tend to have greater discernment than a lot of people in the room. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and notice the language too. It's you said tend to, and that kind of fits with what he's talking about. If you were to like use a scatter plot to show men and women on this, there'd be an awful lot of integration and overlap. Even if you think there's a difference in the concentrations of where people fall on this, there'd be an awful lot of overlap. And the suggestion that, men have the right to it, women do not because of tendencies, means that you're suggesting someone who might be on the far end of a man's capacity, even if that were true, which it's not. They would have less capacity than a bunch of women who have a greater capacity, but they would get to lead because of the mean,
right?
Not because of their own individual capacity, which would mean that you are disadvantaging families by giving them men who are less capable than a bunch of women might be, even their own wives, perhaps, because of the mean that doesn't bear at all on an individual family. Like, this notion that because of averages that you need to draw lines around people is so profoundly stupid.
He's not even talking averages. He's saying that you all are more hormonally and biologically better prepared to have discernment, to have rational thinking and risk taking, which is hilarious since that's actually kind of problematic as a leader. And the other thing is the role of estrogen in rational thinking and discernment is it actually plays a really important role, as well as the sex hormones, regardless of your body, right? Regardless of the type, are both important in the cognitive functioning. So it's just flat out like wrong. It's not just, the Bible says. It's like, well, this Bible isn't talking about these things. And by the way, you brought in science, so let's science it up a little bit. Okay.
Hey, Jen, but I mean, Jen, wouldn't we say that this is just the liberal atheist science, right? I mean, it's the same science that says the world isn't 6,000 years old. I mean, can we really trust that kind of science?
And that it's round.
I
and
saw
that the
some
Torah was written in
That there are foundations of the big dome overhead. Stupid science.
Somebody says, I categorize this thinking as philosophy.
Nice. Oh my God.
That's so good.
I missed that one. Hey Jen, can you drop those links into the private chat? And I'm gonna include those.
Did they
in
not?
The
do they not?
Here's the thing. No, because what happens is when people are watching on multiple platforms, I've come to learn that not everybody sees all the chat. They just see chat that's taking place on their channel. So drop those in the private.
But that's not true because I've been chatting in the StreamYard chat and everyone on my channel sees what I'm saying.
Yes.
But I'm on
But on my channel or on David's channel but I think we'll drop them into the video descriptions when I'm done.
Okay, great.
And I think it's a good idea to do that for everyone too. But let's
if I could say just one more thing, like I feel like watching the rest of this video, if we could just all keep in mind, like picture saying to this guy, sitting him down and saying, listen, I'm sure you have a wonderful penis. It's okay. Right? Like, I'm sure it's plenty big. Like, we get it. It's good, man. Like, if you can just picture that, it probably put it all in context.
This feels like one of those things. I saw someone post on Twitter the other day and said, marriage is between a man and a woman. And I was like, well, objectively, you're actually wrong. Like, objectively, you're wrong. Like, well, at least in the United States, a man and a man, or a woman can get married. I know that you're kind of voicing your opinion, but this just feels very much like that, where it's like, well, throw all the science at me that you want. The Bible says this, so therefore I'm going with that. It's like, it's just at what point did people just decide, you know what, I'm just going to go with, I'm not going to worry about facts, I'm not going to worry about science, but then use science to kind of like bolster their, I don't know, it's just, I'm triggered beyond belief. Let's continue to watch this.
Okay.
protect. Fathers have been endowed with denser bones, larger muscles, wider shoulders, and a 41% stronger grip than women. Even more, fathers have significantly higher levels of testosterone, making them superior in situational awareness and approximately 5 to 10 times more capable of aggression and violence in life-threatening situations
Well,
than
that's
their
Can we
that's
female
a good
stop here?
thing.
Can we
Number
stop
3.
here? Yeah.
Right?
That's a good thing.
Go, you guys go. I want to hear what you want to say, and then
Like
if you don't touch on what
this is why
God.
we have a gigantic problem with spousal and domestic abuse.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Like the odds that a violent and aggressive man is going to beat their children or their wife is a lot higher than the odds they're going to protect their children or their wife. And so, no, that doesn't mean they're going to protect. But again, we're appealing to 41% stronger grip strength.
Yes, exactly.
Again, we're appealing to averages. We're suggesting, one, that grip strength governs one's ability to protect in a broad range of situations. And you can imagine all kinds of situations where grip strength plays absolutely no role whatsoever. But this is just so laughably bad.
Why
the
aren't
grip strength
Secret
that gets
Service
so you can
running
bring
the
in shopping
country?
bags?
Wait, you guys were talking at the same time.
Sorry, go ahead, David.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, under this logic, why aren't Secret Service running the country? Right? I mean, they're much stronger than either of the president or presidential candidate.
Well,
I mean,
have
if
you
strength
seen?
is the reason here? Like,
That's awesome. I love that.
I don't understand.
Did you see though all the
All the
Christian
women.
nationalists yesterday who were just outraged that there were women among Trump's Secret Service detail?
Oh, Jesus.
No
fucking
kidding.
really?
eh?
Yeah, they were incensed.
Oh my gosh.
That's why he got shot, right?
Yeah,
It's
obviously
all those
because-
women.
Right,
Yeah.
those women were in the way.
I'm sure.
Well, and on the flip side of just the whole protection thing, one of the things I loved when I first started doing jujitsu, someone was telling me about this guy, like one of the big guys, and what jujitsu is not about taking someone out. It's about protecting yourself or defending yourself or subduing of someone attacking you. It's not about knocking the shit out of someone attacking you. It's about neutralizing. And this guy, like jujitsu master, right? Somebody like starts tearing up a bar or whatever, and he just neutralizes him. That's the whole point, right? So that, and that's why it makes me scared to see really conservative Christian men in jujitsu mats. I'm like, I don't want to roll with him because it's not quite the same thing. He's thinking attack versus, some sort of skill. Anyway.
Oh.
Yeah.
This
is a power fantasy.
Totally.
On this guy's
Yes.
part.
Right,
Like this has
exactly.
nothing to do with protection. This is
Right.
No.
about him getting off thinking about beating somebody up.
Right. And
Listen, I was gonna say I've been married for
I'm just gonna
31
get into it.
years.
Mhm.
I'm married to a spectacular, strong, independent woman
Mhm.
who even if I wanted to, I couldn't subdue. Right? Like she is just not having any of that shit. And I have to wonder about all of these guys pining
Mhm.
to be the king dick in their households.
Mhm.
Like, why are you so afraid
Mhm.
of the strong women?
Mhm.
Right?
Well, because I know at least for some folks, particularly conservative folks, the strong women suggest they're gay. Have you seen that rhetoric that men who like women who lift weights, who fight, who do that stuff, they're just gay, which is there's an awful lot of homophobia involved in some of these power fantasies. But
That's right.
take this to Annette Yoshiko Reed and ask her, who is a champion Muay Thai fighter.
Okay.
If try to show her your grip strength. See.
I mean,
see
try to do it with Megan, right?
Oh,
Like
that's what
we were teaching
After
our 15-year-old like what to do in case of an active shooter or something. And like I said, Megan, you're the one that's like trained in martial arts. What would you do? And now I at the time I was like 225. I'm 6'2". She's like 5'7", I think, $115, $120.
Mhm.
and she came across the room and hip checked me in a way that, I mean, I literally slammed up against the wall. Don't fuck with Megan.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Your ass out.
Why she had to redo the library?
That's what
That's why.
Put it
That's
right
why.
dent in the
Come on,
drywall.
Josh. I'm gonna show you how to do some drywall.
That's right. Or even just the whole, when you talk about mama bears, like in reference to moms protecting their children, and when the way that mothers wound up in, you know, like when you threaten their children, the way they behave about protection is so dramatically different than what he's describing, right? And even, you know, even the science, one of my favorite things to discover in graduate school was, you know, the whole fight or flight is based on studying men, but tend and befriend is based on studying women. And so I think I'd rather have someone tending and befriending, right, in terms of protection. I know it's more than that. Like, I realize that, and you all have said appropriate things too. It's so much more complicated than.
But nuance does not serve the
No,
rhetorical goals of this particular rhetorician.
That's right.
Is there more?
There's one more. There's
Unfortunately,
3 points.
yes.
There's one more point.
And number 3, provide. Men are proven to be more resourceful when it comes to furnishing the needs of their families. In addition, fathers have a far greater endurance for physical labor and an impressive ability to cope with extreme stress. Ultimately, in Scripture, men are not randomly given the role to preside, protect, and provide. They are given those roles because God biologically designed them for those roles. Yes, men and women are equal before the cross, but they are unequal in their being, capabilities, and role.
I mean,
unequal in their being.
Right. In their being.
In their very being.
Yeah. Yeah.
As
Because
separate from their role.
You all are better. You all are better hormonally.
Just as a human being.
Yes. I love that we just heard from Josh about what how Megan is, you know, insufficient in providing for your family. Right before the show.
Like, there's so many things that go through my mind. Why in the world is the ability to go out and work the thing that makes you capable of leading? Like, so what? CEOs that are in like their 60s, right, that are no longer swinging hammers, what, they're not capable anymore of running the company? The guy that's actually out there with the sledgehammer ought to be the one doing it? Like, how does that make any sense? But the other thing was ability to cope with extreme stress.
Thank you.
Like, has he ever met a mother of 5?
That's
like,
exactly
what.
Right. I was like, I'd love to see him say that in a room full of single mothers, right? Women are have no capacity to.
You know, he's never been in that room.
He's
Ever.
never, right? Even
He's
biblically.
probably never touched a woman, let's be honest. But
even biblically, Proverbs 31 woman who I have a love-hate relationship with, but she's a badass. Like, she's a Martha Stewart of the Bible. Okay.
Yeah.
That woman is doing some stuff. She has her own business. She's saving up money and purchasing land. She's doing all the things to provide for that family. So just
she's got a long jacket. If anybody gets that.
I do. I love Kate. Yes.
Yeah. And a lot of people think that, the woman's like the woman, the Chayil woman in Proverbs 31 is wheeling and dealing, is engaged in business outside the home and all of that. And and also leaves most of the childcare to enslaved people.
Probably,
in the home
very
too.
wealthy.
So.
Yes, very wealthy.
She does also have to get up in the middle of the night.
Yes, I know. I say that. I say that in my book. I'm like, she would also end up in the emergency room, you know, if you live this way for too long, you know. But the point is, even biblically speaking, he's not
profoundly misguided. It's just making up. It's taking these 3 conceptual categories and then just asserting a definition of them.
That's right.
Putting boundaries around them that don't fit any known uses of these categories, and then just asserting falsehoods about studies that, even if they were true, would just be saying, well, these are the means. But trying to put boundaries around who's allowed to do what, because the average might be higher on one side than the other, which is
grip strength and grip strength.
Grip strength.
The grip strength is to bring in the shopping, so you can carry the shopping. That's what grip strength is for.
You know, and what's interesting, this is maybe so ridiculously random, but when you start talking about your body as what determines your ability to lead, right? That just it's
It's weird.
you know, he's lived in a very small town. My body is actually built very well to be a ballerina. I've been told that by professional ballerinas. I have no desire, never ever have. So it was like, what is that about? Like, my body is supposed to be a ballerina, but I'm not. Because we're going to look to what our, you know what I'm saying? Is my point making? Am I making my point?
You're suppressing the truth and unrighteousness, Jen.
So I just have to jump in because there's something that really bothers me. Cliff Connectley does the same thing. He says that men and women are equal before the cross.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That's not true. Like, even like the scripture, like it's so. Do they read their own Bible? Like in 1 Timothy 2:11. A woman should learn in quietness and full submission. I do not permit a woman to teach or to have authority over a man. She must be silent. For Adam was formed first, then Eve. And Adam was not the one deceived. It was the woman who was deceived and became a sinner. But women will be saved through childbearing if they continue in faith, love, and holiness with propriety. That is not equality before the cross. I don't care how you spin it, unless you just disregard that scripture. It's just bizarre. Like, where did they get this idea of equality? Even in the Old Testament, men and women had different prices attached to their physical being. It's bizarre. I just don't understand where they get this.
Yeah. So that saving in 1 Timothy is actual physical. You will be spared from being executed, not the saving that Jesus does on the cross. Even though, technically speaking, it is the same verb, sozo. They're actually talking about political persecution and arrest and potentially being put to death because a woman who isn't doing her duty, her political duty of bearing children, is seen as subversive.
Blessed be the fruit, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's precisely what we're seeing still today.
Very un-Pauline, too.
Oh, you guys.
Entirely conflicts with Paul's notion that, hey, we're not here for this.
That's right. It's better to stay single if you can. And yeah.
All I know is it's a terrible argument. It was a terrible argument when the writer of 1 Timothy made it. I was so proud when I taught, I think it was an introduction to New Testament class to second-year students at a Christian university. And one of my students wrote a paper on what a terrible argument it was.
Nice. Nice. So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
The next clip we have is this one.
Hugh.
This guy.
Okay.
I spent 18 months, 1 or 2 hours a night, studying the Bible. And when I finally got to Revelation 22, I realized I'd not been able to find a single provable error or contradiction.
I mean,
and I found over 200 places.
Self-burn. Those are rare.
What?
This all happened when this guy was 17, by the way. Like they want the authority of the fact that he's an astrophysicist, but if you look up his biography, he's talking about things that happened before he ever went to
years
college.
ago.
Yeah.
Well, when he was, I think he graduated high school early, may have entered college early, but this happened when he was a child.
Yeah.
So this is not, the PhD doing this as part of some kind of formal research project. This is a kid doing this.
And studying the Bible for 2 hours is what you're just reading through as fast as you can, in
English.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, like to be, Hugh was the motivation for us starting the scholarship program.
Oh,
you guys remember the title of it was Humans Against Poor Scholarship.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was the video where Hugh put out this long set of evidences for the phrase in Hebrew to stretch out the heavens like a tent was the Big Bang, right? And we said, please join our team of Humans Against Poor Scholarship. This is Hugh Ross. So thank you, Hugh.
Thank you, Strong's Concordance.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So wait, but what did he say there? I came across not a single contradiction. What did he say? Because it's just
not a single one, Jim.
You're right. And I think I want to just be clear for everyone listening that, like, what is he? Yeah, that's far enough. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
far enough. Yeah, it's not.
Let's see.
That's good.
I've not been able to find a single provable error or contradiction.
Error or
I've
contradiction?
found over
Provable.
two.
I mean, I realize that the rest of you all on this panel do more of this than I do, and you've all addressed this multiple times, many times. But like error or contradiction, like it's just so
Who stresses
many
Brandon?
buckets.
Provable.
Who
No,
rest it?
Jen. Provable.
Oh,
Error or
oh.
contradiction.
Yeah, well, I would
It's worse. Just so
I
you
would
know. Go ahead.
point to those two things. Yeah, one, it's like, great, we're at Russell's teapot. You can't prove it's not
Yeah.
out there. So, I've yet to find any provable absence of a teapot in orbit around the Earth in deep space. But
Yes,
that goes
one,
back to
yeah.
the just retreating to, you can't prove it's impossible apologetics, which means you're trying to avoid finding them. You're not making a good faith effort. You are trying to avoid it. And if you can't find an error or contradiction in the Bible, you are clearly trying not to find one, because they are all over
But
the place.
this is typical of what Hugh does, right? If you were to press him on this, it's the application of definitions from another field, generally more a philosophical field, into like a literary context. So like trying to import into Genesis 1 the word universe, right, with a more modern understanding of the term universe. But like, Dan, we saw this like a year ago, right, with well, there's no logical contradiction in the Bible. Well, show me how it's not possible in any given world, or in a given world, or like, that's not what anybody means when they talk about a literary contradiction, right?
Yeah.
Or a historical contradiction. So I mean, it's just mixing categories.
Yeah, it is.
It's just
200 places where the Bible accurately predicted future scientific discoveries.
No, it
And I
doesn't.
still remember
What the
the
hell
night.
is
It was
even
like
talking
one in the
about?
morning.
200.
200 scientific discoveries?
200.
What is he even talking? Can we get that list? I mean,
Wouldn't that be great?
yeah.
Oh,
It would.
yeah.
Here's
One
the
of these
problem.
days, we are going to find out that there's a dome overhead, scientifically.
Well, they there's the passage in Job that says the earth rests over nothing,
Yes.
or something like that, and they're like,
There's life in the blood.
yeah,
Right.
that and so as long as you just really twist what they were trying to say into something that, if you squint at hard enough, the edges will bleed into the bleeding edges of some kind of scientific observation.
Well, I mean, like, humans reproduce, right? I mean, that's scientific. They can walk. That's in the Bible too.
The dog produces a dog
I
kind.
mean, like, hey, get out a pen. Like, we can do this, guys. We can do this.
And it's like, that interpretation has absolutely nothing to do with any interpretation that has ever existed prior to someone taking that scientific discovery and then going, I wonder if I can find this in the Bible.
It sure does.
Which shows you that it's being read in. It's eisegetic.
I mean, let's just go back to 18th century Mari then, right? If we're going to do this, let's do it right, right? And let's look at the letters to the king, saying, "Hey, we need to quarantine that city because disease is broken out there." So they must have understood, virology.
That's right. They did.
That's one of them I recently saw in the Bible. They show you you've got to use running water when it comes to dealing with illness
in Leviticus.
And then elsewhere, and then after that, it was like, we can use still water.
Listen,
and then
I swear, I get I get so much pushback all the time in public spaces about how we must think ancient people were stupid and couldn't understand the world because they believed in, gods that lived on mountains and stuff like that. But seriously, like, this is projection, right? Like, the idea that 2,000 years ago, everybody couldn't figure out that when you drank stagnant water, bad things happened. Like, it just
they weren't
boggles
20th century
the
cis
mind.
hetero white men. They couldn't have figured things out. Come on, this is easy.
Yeah, I mean, not to all the architectural and various, like all the various things that people were doing 3,000, 4,000 years ago, right? Like we're calling them dumb. We're calling
Yeah.
That was aliens, Jen. That was ancient
Oh,
aliens.
that's right.
Come on, come on.
Keep forgetting. That's that
Damn
new knowledge I had.
History
Yeah.
Channel. Yeah.
History Channel. Okay.
Morning, I went through a calculation. What's the probability that these Bible authors
Oh
could have
gosh.
predicted all these scientific discoveries accurately without the God of the universe inspiring them to write what they wrote? And that probability was less than 1 chance in 10 to the 300 power. And I was weak. My physics professor gave us an assignment to calculate the probability that one of us in the class would be killed by a sudden reversal of the second law of thermodynamics.
Wow.
I mean, where do I
This
sign
is
up
like-
for fundamentalism? Because like
This
I'm
is what they
convinced.
do. This is Islam's whole thing. Is look at the scientific discoveries in our religion. That's like their whole. Like, so I wonder why this guy's not a Muslim.
Oh gosh. And the probability of prophecy is such a just a baseless argument. Like you are making up any probability. You are 100% fabricating. There's a guy Stoner, Peter Stoner, wrote a book called Science Speaks back in 1958. And you'll see a lot of this. The probability that Jesus could have fulfilled even 8 of the prophecies from the Hebrew Bible is 1 times 10 to the 17th power. And he's fulfilled over 300 of them. No, he didn't. And also, if you look at his methodology in the book, he's like, we had this Christian evidences class. And so we listed 8 prophecies. And then I asked the students to guess what the probability of any one of them being fulfilled was. And then we just took the numbers and added them all up.
Are you
And
kidding?
so, no, that's literally what you can go find this book for free online. Science
Yeah, I have
Speaks.
better things to do, but yeah.
And that's
Wow.
and that is where those
Turning a
numbers
blind
come
eye
from.
toward the evidences, Jen. We know that's what that is. See? This is what they
I'm
do.
willfully ignorant.
It's like the use of Bayes' theorem. Like,
Yeah, right.
what you get out of it is entirely contingent on what you put in it. And most of the
Yeah.
time, you
what
have
you
to just
expect.
pick and choose what goes into it.
That's right.
I mean, that's how it's used to prove that Jesus said and did everything reported in the Gospels, while at the same time also did not exist at all. Thank you, Bayes' theorem.
Yeah.
Jesus was the greatest American who ever lived. You guys need to get it right. All right, this is the last clip.
All right.
Here we go.
Remember that story from Isaiah where the Assyrian army was marching to Jerusalem and God said that I will not let them enter Jerusalem, and he sent an angel, came down and killed the entire army.
Dang.
But they had apparently just found proof of that battle.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
This archaeologist, he was like digging and found this old ancient Assyrian coin looking thing. And basically what it was, if I understand it right, it was a layout for an army and like what mountain peaks that they're at and stuff. And he's like, oh, this matches what I've seen in this one region, but no one had explored or dug or lived in this region for thousands of years. And so he went there and did pictures and stuff. And sure enough, it matched up exactly where this battle would have taken place.
That's
What?
insane.
And I think there's
This is the greatest thing I've ever
Okay,
seen
let's
in my
pause
life.
real quick.
Nobody stopped to look there.
There's a coin.
That's the
There's a
end.
coin-looking thing.
Yeah.
So
Same thing.
this is on point. Isn't this the same group that talks about like the pit that had no bottom out in like the Midwest somewhere? And this the same.
That
group?
was an episode of Gravity Falls where the bottomless pit. I don't know. Yeah, these folks talk about some pretty asinine conspiracy theories, but they also get this entirely wrong. This is actually a misrepresentation of a paper that was published in Near Eastern Archaeology a month ago. And it was, so it's the paper is called The Trail of Sennacherib's Siege Camps. And it is by Stephen Compton. And what they did was they looked at the Lachish reliefs. And there's the reliefs show Sennacherib sitting in his throne with his fanners, and he's got a tent behind him. And then there's the army camp off a ways, and then you've got Lachish siege. And what they did was, what Compton did was suggest, hey, maybe this is like an accurate representation of the topography of the area. And so he overlaid the reliefs on aerial photographs from the 40s of Lachish, and was able to show, hey, there's a hill that actually still has a stone wall around it with a wall right down the middle of it, precisely as depicted in the Lachish bas-reliefs, and suggested that this is probably the camp, the siege camp, and then said, using and this puts the siege camp way off further than people had always thought it was. They always thought it was on this little hill,
Right.
where that there's a community living there now. And he showed, no, that little hill is actually where Sennacherib was sitting and watching things, but the camp was much further off. And then suggested, hey, let's look at aerial photography of Jerusalem, and suggested, based on the comparison with what's going on in Lachish, there's a hill that you can see off in the distance that had some walls around it that would have been about the same distance, fits everything. They were coming from the north, and is now known as Ammunition Hill. And basically just suggesting that's probably where Sennacherib's siege camp was, if all of this other stuff fits. And so I don't know where they got coin from. Like, we've had the Lachish reliefs for a long, long time. You can go to the British Museum, which who stole them, but it's just saying, hey, we think that's where the siege camp was, and it has been twisted into. We found proof that an angel killed 185,000 Assyrian troops. Like, it's
just following point A to point B, Dan.
Yeah, so bafflingly stupid. And I don't know how they could have twisted it so much into they were digging and they found a coin.
Yeah.
And there was a map on the coin. Like, why not just say it was on the back of the Declaration of Independence? Well,
it was a coin. It was a coin thing. It was a coin thing.
Coin-like thing.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Some wiggle room.
All
there.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't remember what the rest of that video goes into, though. Is there more, David?
No, there's only
No,
there's one more
that
second. So
okay, yeah, no, we don't need to. But that's been stuff that's been shared a bunch on a bunch of different social media platforms, that they found proof that this battle happened. And,
well, I mean, like, this opens up a broader point, right? And that is that, evidence for a supernatural claim in a theological text, doesn't come from finding evidence to support the historicity of the event in which that supernatural event was supposed to have taken place. So just because we find evidence or have evidence for Naram's sin fighting battles, and even though we have really good evidence that shows that in some sense in the text he was deified during his reign, does not speak in any way to the reality of that supernatural claim, right? Yeah. Like, these are very distinct things. So this idea,
yes,
and this is so frustrating in apologetics. It's like, okay, this is the angel is said to have killed 185,000. So if we can just find historical evidence for this battle or this siege, well,
there you have it.
Follows.
Yeah,
this is what happened. It's
That's
like,
right.
no, what?
Well, you create a lot of problems for yourself too, because let's go back to 2 Kings 3, where we have this coalition that lays siege to Moab to try to punish them and extract funds from them because they threw off vassalage. And the text seems to suggest that Chemosh ran the coalition out of the country. And then we find, let's just say that some archaeologists found a little coin-like thing known as the Mesha inscription, and Mesha on there, a Moabite king, explains that Israel got run out of their country by Chemosh. Does that confirm that the Moabite patron deity actually defeated Adonai and frustrated the prophecy that they had promised through the prophet. I mean, the logic is
just how
sound. The
this is
math
just how
checks out.
archaeology works, Dan.
Yeah,
that's just it. The Bible in one hand and the spade in the other. That's how it's done. Wow.
Sorry. Go, Jenna.
No, you go, Dave, because I'm changing this.
I was just going to say we probably should jump onto some super chats because we got a ton this morning. And
yes, and I just want to very briefly make a comment. Someone was commenting back when we were discussing these ancient people believing things, these crazy things about gods, and the chat, and I know I contributed to it, about saying these ancient people are not dumb. I just want to say that, like, there are still people today who believe crazy things about gods. So that's why I pointed to like engineering and architecture and those things to in the ancient context, to see they're not really different from us. Right? Does that make sense? And so there was an important pushback that I'm hoping that comment clarifies why at least I was trying to offer that into that conversation. So yeah, thanks. Okay, super chats.
The first super chat we have. Can I get someone else to read these, because I still got a little bit of vertigo and it's hard to read. So
yeah,
gosh.
I'll be happy to read. Dr. Josh was hoping you could do a course on the evidence Noah's flood didn't happen, the Sargon Empire population problem, and Sumerian text that is not interrupted from a catastrophe. I'd really like a course on it.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be useful. And we did, and this is probably what Constellation Pegasus is talking about. I did a stream with Gutsick Gibbons a couple of years ago now, where she was kind of bringing the scientific aspects to it, and I was just bringing that would have been very surprising to everybody in the in ancient Mesopotamia. There was a worldwide flood in the middle of the third millennium.
I remember that. That was a good one.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting idea. Maybe it'd be part of like a broader implications of Near Eastern mythology. That's a good idea.
I know I've seen a bunch of videos recently where people are like, "Oh, there are 200 ancient flood myths from cultures all around the world," and we're gonna squint at them so they all look very similar,
and
like
mean that they're
fuzzy
literal,
blobs.
That it actually literally happened. As described.
Okay, in 1 Timothy 2:9 and 1 Peter 3:3, women are told not to wear gold, pearls, purple, or braided hair. Does the Greek verb imply anything, or is this like the English verb braid, and anything about luxury is implied?
So I looked this up while you all were having your little L and Shaddai and the Yahweh thing. So so 1 Timothy 2 is using the oh gosh, was that a noun or verb? But it's plegma, and it's in braids. So different. So wearing your hair in braids, and then in 1 Peter 3, it's implacace tricone. So it's a description of the hair, and it's a noun or an adjective. It's a noun being used adjectively. So two different nouns or formations, but it's still a reference to. So the issue of, is that about luxury? I would have to go look up the historical context of those two nouns, and I don't have the ability to do that right now. So I think it's really just talking about fancy hairdos, is how I've always taken that.
I think the idea is, from the commentaries I've seen, the idea is to not be all showy about having wealth and all that kind of stuff,
and the time to be able to do such braids.
Yeah. Certainly doesn't have anything to do with the degree of skin you have showing. None of the words that are translated modesty anywhere in the Bible have anything at all to do with how much skin is showing. Is there any scholarly consensus on what Shiloh is in Genesis 49:10? Is the messianic interpretation probable? If so, what can that tell us about dating the text? Thanks, y'all rock.
I need to look that one up. I'll just say something quickly about messianic interpretations of the text. You can virtually turn any text essentially that you want into a messianic text, depending on how you're recontextualizing. And this is what happened all the time in the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran, is they're literally mining their literature and looking for just the most arcane bits that they can to connect to present day experiences. So the idea that a text is messianic or not is always just in the eyes of the readers. It doesn't really have anything to do with where and when texts were written most of the time. I mean, I guess in rare instances when you get to some of the later stuff, like in Daniel. Did someone look this up?
Well, I think this
I
is
know I said I was going to. Oh, is
I
this
didn't, but I mean, I think this
scepter
is
and
the one until Shiloh comes, and it's like,
Yeah.
is it
Oh,
Shell?
yeah.
It's like the one of him or something, or the one of her.
Okay.
But I was going to say, just sort of in that vein, like this is not a new thing that developed. Ancient scribes played. It's what they did, and there was a lot of validity in their eyes to it. So like the example that I always use are the 50 names of Marduk in the Enuma Elish. So if you read through the Enuma Elish, which is like a late 2nd century text, at the end you have the scribes playing with the name Amar Utu.
Second millennium.
What did I say?
Second century.
Oh, sorry.
Second
Millennium
Yeah.
BCE.
What?
I was like, I've been wrong the whole time.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying.
Paradigming shifting without a clutch here. So yes, I mean, like it's playing on these two signs Amar Utu, which make up the name Marduk, and the different ways that the sign Amar can be read, the different ways the sign Utu can be read, but it's just all this sort of esoteric. I'm trying to think of a modern day example, but I mean, it's like ancient Eminem, right? I mean, it's like, really esoteric dad jokes might be a way to think about it, but it's just playing with the words to try to generate new meanings and then assign them to Marduk. So yeah, there's nothing that's not novel, and it's expected.
And I think the reading I prefer of Genesis 49:10 is probably the one to whom it belongs, until the scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until the one to whom it belongs comes, which is, it could be messianic if you're in a period where messianism is a thing, and if you're not, then no. As a Republican drew first blood in the Trumpist revolution, is Kevin Roberts a false prophet who shouldn't be so sure about their success? I assume this has reference. I think Kevin Roberts, I think, was the guy who said the revolution will be bloodless if the left allows it.
Oh, right. He's the Project 2025 guy.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And so because this 20-year-old kid was evidently registered Republican, he's putting the lie to Kevin Roberts' promise that it would be bloodless. I don't think there's any significance to that.
I live in Canada.
I know, and I'm going to soon if I have anything to say about it.
Yeah.
I love the frequent observation that Canadians must feel like they're living in an apartment above a meth lab. Native Atheist.
It's good.
Says, is this too serious to request Dr. Josh do a Kent Hovind impersonation?
Oh, no, it is not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all of you atheists, you want me to come on and do an impersonation here. The problem is that you hold to that evolution, and of course we know that evolution is the dumbest religion that's ever been foisted upon us as the American people. And of course, I don't want my taxpayers or your taxpayers' money going to to funding such a stupid religion. Okay, because we have other things that we could do, like have the water rain down on the otters. Okay, and I'm here to help.
Mr. Hovind,
what just happened?
Mr. Hovind, didn't you spend time in jail for tax evasion?
Yeah. So we're going to ignore Dan. Dan McClunny's probably one of those perverts as well.
Awesome.
Did I hear correctly about that? He was in prison?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Okay. He almost went to prison again for
years. Like it was like 5 or 6 years he was in jail.
Woo.
Yeah.
All right.
He still cries conspiracy and etc.
This is Stoner Science Speaks Math. Well, somebody Somebody knew about Stoner's book. Yeah.
Mm.
Mark 14:61-62. According to the Bible, what Jesus said didn't come true. Am I correct saying this? Yes.
This is good. We need to get through a bunch. So.
That was
Kung Fu
Caroline.
grip strength. Yeah, that's
Yes.
41% stronger Kung
That's
Fu
right.
grip strength.
That's
That
right.
that
And
allows you to protect your
that
family.
will protect you or provide for you. Which one was that? Protect. Yeah.
The role of estrogen in rational thinking. Thanks, Dr. Bird. # researching and hi all. Hi Ichabod. Protecting the family from what? Other men.
Zing.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because all
Thank you,
those
Vashanti.
90+% of men who are the ones who end up shooting up the public are so much better at dealing with stress.
Thank you, Dan. And just all the stress of being a woman in a patriarchal world. Like, I just needed to say those words. But anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead. We all
Key
thought it.
takeaway
Do you mind if I read this one?
Go ahead.
Oh yeah.
Now that I've said that, how in the world do you pronounce that? Giramide. That's what I'm going to say for $4.99. Thank you. Key takeaway from this video: don't fuck with Megan. I wholeheartedly agree.
Amen. Dr. Bird, please tell me, who is the Snoop Dogg to Proverbs 31's woman?
Oh gosh. Oh, I don't know how to respond to that.
How about Caleb? Can we make it Caleb?
Oh,
That would be
Caleb.
funny.
Nice. Hey, Nitty, how are you?
Snuffle T. Wuggins. It's so sad that we all have to deal with these folks that have internal work that needs to be done. This is a you problem, babe. Go to therapy and leave us out of it. That's good advice for anybody.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
The worst part about going to therapy is realizing how many other people need to go to therapy and don't.
Right.
That's
right.
the worst.
Yep.
Absolutely worst part.
Ignorance is
You know,
bliss in
but
that case.
it's always a little awkward to be like, I was thinking what you would really benefit from is therapy.
Yeah.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Why has Deus Pater paternalized your patterns? Well, as one famous Canadian, the great Canadian poet once said, pitter patter, let's get at her. I don't know. That's a Canadian, right? That's a Canadian show, isn't it?
Wow. Wow.
With regards to the old astrophysicists, it's awfully easy to find that a text doesn't have any provable errors if you're willing to harmonize anything. EC?
Yes.
Lots of mental gymnastics happen for
Yes.
apologists.
That's excusegetics.
Excuse me. We have 2 super stickers, so thank you guys.
Lauren, Steve,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Claude Simeon. Okay, Dan, making a Gravity Falls reference just confirms he is right about everything. No logical fallacies can be cited. My family and I all love Gravity Falls. If you're not familiar with that television show and you'd like a wonderful lighthearted cartoon that is also can get quite deep in parts, highly recommend checking out Gravity Falls.
Thanks.
Just 2 seasons.
Yeah, I don't know it.
Short run, but phenomenal show. JC, could you address the above concerns?
Oh, no.
I
I
see
know.
5 concerns above this question right now, and I don't think I can address any of them. Therapy, though, can address.
Can we just answer all of these now with therapy? Is that,
Oh,
is that
that's
probably.
nice.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Burn love bond. Wouldn't all beliefs about any god sound crazy to non-believers? And tell Dan to stop doubting my teapot. No, on at least the second part. Yeah, but I go ahead.
Go ahead, Dan. That's fine. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think anciently there were a lot fewer people around who probably thought of gods as entirely non-existent. Not that they didn't exist, but there were a lot fewer of them. So a lot more people got along with these ideas. But I wonder how much, like, some of the literalism today, it's like this probably would have struck even first millennium BCE thinkers.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, pull it back a little bit. I think
In terms of
taking it
like
a bit too
providing a
seriously.
parking spot for you and that kind of stuff.
that kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Silly goose. Is it fair to say that not believing in divinity or prophecy is a bias? I understand to do your specific jobs, you can't introduce it. However, would it not be dishonest to think your lens is the only correct way? I mean,
I agree it's a bias, right?
Yeah.
It clearly is. And it's the one that we all, it's certainly within our field of scholarship. This is the one that we all operate within.
Yeah.
I don't know. What were you going to say, Dan? Or Jen?
Well,
Sorry.
I always got to say, everybody's got to have a perspective of some kind or another, and you can't really have a non-biased perspective. And I
Right,
think
right.
most critical scholars are doing their best to try to adopt the perspectives that are best supported by the data and by the methodologies of the fields in which they operate. And I think that's the best you can do. And the alternative is so profoundly problematic and I think undermines the goals of critical scholarship that I think would be reckless.
Well, I was going to say, I'm actually trying to review a book right now, and I'm so accustomed to being in the mind space of the form of critical biblical scholarship that I do that it is, and I used to do a lot of reviews, but I'm really struggling to write this review because of the number of times and ways this person is bringing in specific applications of the role of the Holy Spirit in understanding Scripture, and specifically making understanding what the gospel is saying, or understanding what a particular passage is talking about, understanding what something in the Hebrew Bible is talking about, and the role of the Holy Spirit in that. And I think that this person is well trained, but in a particular framework, right? I mean, went to Regent. I mean, there's PhD. So anyway, I mean, it's really fascinating how people in this role of trying to be respectful, having integrity as biblical scholars, will have a whole range of assertions about this thing. So I don't know. I feel like I need to just pass on doing the review. It's that challenging to me to do to be respectful, but also critical in the reviewer position.
Yeah. I get that a lot. I get asked to review papers from within the Latter-day Saint tradition an awful lot. And I'm like, I think I might have trouble coming up with anything, but this is all precluded by a critical approach to the scholarship. And I feel the same way. I'm like, I can't really simulate what a critical yet believing approach might be here, because that's not what I do. Right. And because once you allow that in, it's just basically a trump card. It's whatever people want it to be. Yeah. And so you can't critically interrogate this. Basically, the equivalent of the footnote that says this came to me in a dream.
Right, and it's for JBL. Like, oh God, I've got to do this somehow. Anyway.
Okay. Claude Simeon, at least one Canadian hates Trudeau, though. A lot more than one, I think.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
Heng Fashi, Genesis 3, because you have done this, you are cursed more than all animals, domestic and wild. Cursed more? Does this imply a previous curse? If so, wouldn't that rob Christianity of major talking points, since A&E are blamed for starting it all? Interesting question. Let me pull up. This is 3.
This is Genesis 3.
6, Does it say you're more cursed? Does it actually say that? Or you're just...
It probably does.
So, wait, yeah, that's the whole... That's a curse to the serpent.
Yeah, curse to the serpent. Arurata Mikol ha behema. So, yeah. Cursed are you more than all the cattle.
Livestock.
And among all creatures. It's not more than all, is it?
Mikol.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so
there are other ways to read that, though, too.
Yeah, that doesn't...
Yeah.
Like it,
you could use it as a from
usually,
all.
Yeah, that doesn't require...
Among all, I think it works too, as Jen suggested. You could syntactically.
That's what the NRSV has. Cursed are you among all animals and among all creatures.
Right.
As a compare, yeah.
So. But the idea might be that the animals have a particular station which is not as preferred or nice as the other stations, and so. But yeah, I think trying to understand it all as part of a clean, systematic whole is also problematic. It's
always a problem.
An etiology. Okay, Domingo Aveles. In Judges 1:16, Sephora translates, "You have given me away as Negeb land. Why not you have given me Negeb land? What am I missing?" Also, does the verse refer to a dowry?
Judges 1:16.
Yeah. So NRSV has the descendants of Hobab the Kenite, Moses' father-in-law, went up with the people of Judah from the city of palms into the wilderness of Judah, which lies in the Negev near Arad. Then they went and settled with the Amalekites, and Judah went with his brother Simeon, and they defeated the Canaanites who inhabited Zephah and devoted it to destruction. So the city was called Hormah. I'm not seeing.
You're giving me away as Negev land. I don't see it.
Oh, that's in verse 15.
Ah.
NRSV says, she said to him, "Give me a blessing since you have set me in the land of the Negev. Give me also Gulot Maim." So Caleb gave her upper Gulot and lower Gulot.
In the land of the Negev. Set me in the land.
Eretz HaNegev.
So Eretz.
Negev.
Oh, what does
You've
it
placed,
say?
yeah, you have set me, not Natantani.
I'm trying to see the original allocation of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What they're referring to.
Yeah.
It's an odd construction to begin with, right? Eretz HaNegev Natati. Natatat.
Yeah,
sorry.
Natani.
So literally for land of the Negev, you have given me, and you have, I guess this would be, you have set me, or set unto me.
So it's that, yeah.
Huh.
I mean, the question about dowry, that's an interesting question about the dowry. I think I wondered that as I read through it, and I just never went back to it.
Listen, yeah. It's a very good question, and you've stumped us all. But this is definitely something that clearly I need to look into.
It seems like if you look at the context, right, starting in 12 or 13.
Yeah. Whoever attacks Kiryat Sefer and takes it, I will give him my daughter Achsah as wife.
Oh yeah.
And Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, took it, and he gave him his daughter Achsah as wife. And when she came to him, she urged him to ask her father for a field. As she dismounted from her donkey, Caleb said to her, "What do you wish? Give me a blessing since you have set me in." Yeah, so it seems she seems to have been given in marriage to somebody who has taken that land. So I think just contextually, they're understanding it to mean have put me in that position, in that place. But I see a couple of different translations. I don't know what Sephirah is. Is that a?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's the Jewish text.
We may have to.
It's really, really good.
We have to save this for a later.
Yeah, taking up a little more time.
Yeah, I think so.
We've got a couple more super chats.
Guys.
Okay.
Whoa.
I don't know what this is.
Oh, goodness.
So this is, I think, a two-part.
What about that Corinthian capital at the Golden Gate?
And then
there's another part to this too.
Yeah. Oh.
Whether this relates to the apocalyptic rolling of the heavens. Good, you have your therapy sorted out.
Is this one of the trolls? Someone was saying the trolls have entered the chat. I was just wondering.
Okay.
I mean, that was clearly an Akkadian text.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. Yep.
It looks like someone just smashed their head on the keyboard to me, but
well, to the untrained eye, of course, David. Yes.
Yeah.
And this is certainly not a normal text. I mean, I see like Selah 7, Selah, I dwell. Sorry, we don't have time for me to sit here and try to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
Ronan Astag, hey, heroes, just checking in and letting everyone know I'm still here. Thanks for being here and staying awesome.
Aw,
Stay
thanks,
awesome.
Ronan of Stag.
See you, Ronan.
Jenny and Joe Knox, thank you again for a perfect Sunday date for the two nerds who enjoy the scholarship. No questions, just thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jenny and Joe.
And we have, I think, one last question if I haven't missed any.
Tamara Wines. Can't your personal belief about divinity or prophecy be independent of critical textual scholarship? I think so.
Yeah,
of course.
and that's, I don't know. I feel like maybe certainly we all work with a lot of scholars in the field, many of whom are deeply devoted
Mm-hmm.
on all sorts of places in the religious spectrum, and I would say a lot of them do a really solid job of making that distinction.
Really?
So some better than others, certainly, right? I know it. Josh and I just spent the last couple of weeks reading articles from Richard Hess, but I feel like it can happen.
It can.
Right.
I just think that a lot of times, at least Christian-informed scholars aren't even aware sometimes the extent to which they're bringing that in.
This is true.
Yeah.
What do I know?
Tamara goes on to comment, I think that you as panelists would be more inclined to say that the religious texts are inconsistent or don't prove out a particular view regardless of your personal beliefs.
See, this is the thing, like, and I won't speak for everybody, but I suspect everybody would agree with me on this. Like, we're not out here saying what you should believe. Right? What we're doing is saying, look, we're coming at this from a historical critical perspective. And at the same time, we're trying to engage with people who are utilizing a text as a weapon, an ancient text as a weapon to try to quite often put down another group, right, to their own benefit. And so those are the things that we're out here doing. We're trying to produce good scholarship and to bring you good scholarship, and at the same time try to counteract those people that would weaponize ancient texts for their own benefits, whether they realize it or not. Like outside of that, live your best life. I don't know.
One last comment for Kip.
Why is Kip avoiding the original Greek OT?
Well, I mean, I think it's been clearly demonstrated, right, Lawrence, that it's because I don't actually know Greek. Like, sorry.
Today's was fun. This was this isn't going to.
We should do this again. It felt like, and today felt really important because there've been a couple of really heavy shows we've done recently, and we all just needed a.
Should we say the word genocide just to sort of like be familiar, have some consistency?
So we don't feel like we didn't do our job today.
Maybe, and I think we're gonna finish early too, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So, but before we wrap it up, let's talk about what's going on. So, Dan,
I am working on a handful of things right now. My trade volume is in production, so hopefully I'll have a cover and then pre-orders available. At which point I will become intolerable, and so beware. I'm doing a bit of traveling here for a bit. Highlight is I'm going to be at San Diego Comic-Con 24th through the 29th, so I'm very much looking forward to that, getting to say hi to some people I've never met in person before. And then we'll be at Dragon Con at the end of August, and a handful of other trips even later in the year. So got a bunch of stuff I'm trying to finish up as well this year, teaching Hebrew, biblical Hebrew, starting on August 5th. So anyone interested, we're going to go through the first half of Lexham's Learning Biblical Hebrew textbook and their corresponding.
I don't know
workbook.
that one.
I think it's like 2018 is the copyright. I picked it up at SBL a few years ago, and I'm going to give it a shot. and see how it works out. But that's starting up August 5th. It'll be twice a week. We'll be recording the classes so that people can learn asynchronously if they can't make it to the live recordings, and then taking a 2-week break in the middle because I'm going to be out of the country at the beginning of October. But if you're interested, you can check out my website, maklelan.org, McClellan.org, for the class. And then also, the link tree in any of my bios does that as well. So.
Excellent.
Awesome. Jen, what's up?
Well, I was hoping to announce that the audio of my book was going to be available, but they've told me that it will be another 4 months. And so yeah. So I've been in correspondence with the people in the rights department, because the publisher was just bought out by Bloomsbury, and they're like, well, it's going to take us a few months. I'm like, yeah, you're going to sign it over to me, whether it's now or in 4 months. So I've contemplated seeing if people will help me with like an email campaign or something, like, just sign it over, because it's helpful for everybody if I can get it out there. So anyway, that's on my mind right now. And then I will be moving on to creating the video series on Intro to the Bible. So that's nice. The big stuff on my mind are those two things. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Josh.
I'll let you talk about the.
No, you do it.
Well, all right. Yeah. So Kip and I have spent the past month?
It's like been a month. Yeah.
Working together behind the scenes, prepping a long ass script to do with Apologia. It's all been recorded. It's being edited now. It's going to be amazing, but it's responding. Oh, that's what I'm going to say. I want you to say the content.
Oh,
you do
okay.
so much better
It's like 37 pages long. This script.
Whoa.
It's brutal.
Whoa.
And what's nice is we used all the colors of the rainbow, and then that wasn't intentional.
In this experience, I learned that Josh might be colorblind.
So I'm terrible. I'm terrible at recognizing the distinctions between colors. And Kip decided to call me out on it. He's like, "How many different colors are you going to make my lines?" And then I said, "Well, thanks for pointing out my disability, because my MS, optic neuritis, makes it so that I can't see colors." And it's true, but I was just messing with him. He felt so bad.
Well played.
So, yeah. Good.
Yeah, we're working with Apologia on doing a video response, because I cannot get enough recently about bad apologetics for the conquest narratives in the Bible. They just don't seem to die. So Josh and I have been working with Apologia on putting together what I think is a pretty definitive response to a conversation that Gavin Ortland and Michael Jones from Inspiring Philosophy had about from their deep knowledge of the archaeology of Jericho and the ancient Near East,
and their misreading of a paper that was published in a 2020 volume about Jericho.
I mean, we'll always say this, and to be like, just so that everything's clear, I'm always very excited about people doing research into these topics.
Yes.
I'm always very excited about that. Where it becomes problematic for me is when you then intentionally or unintentionally present yourself as an authority on that topic when maybe you're not. And again, I say intentionally or unintentionally. I suspect unintentionally. But yeah, it's problematic because a lot of people pay a lot of attention to some of the people that are out here, and
so frequently all they're doing is just appealing to the authority of a minority of scholars.
Yes.
And then we'll respond that we have good reason to believe. And it's like, no, a minority of scholars have just made the argument. That doesn't necessarily.
Richard Hess said it, right? Let's just Richard Hess said it.
Oh boy.
Surprise!
In a paper where he consistently says, maybe it's possible that, and
Yeah.
maybe
Well, hey,
it's possible that
It's
this
not.
word could
It's
mean
not
this.
inconsistent
It's
with
not,
It-
right?
pointing
it's not
out that
logically
something is
impossible.
pointing out that something is not impossible basically proves that it happened.
Yeah.
It
Anyway,
basically
based on
does.
the apologetic literature that I've been reading.
Yeah, it does. So maybe on that note, I'll just say too. I did a like a month ago. I did a stream about the conquest of Canaan.
Mhm.
And the audio in it turned out to be really bad because
Ah.
my poor little computer couldn't keep up to it. So I've actually spent quite a bit of time over the last few weeks just re-editing the whole thing and cutting it up and packaging it more nicely. So that's actually going to be coming out in the next week or two. But on Tuesday, I'm going on holidays. So
Nice.
yeah.
But hey, we should point out that if you want to listen to it now, Kip, correct me if I'm wrong, you can sign up for Patreon, right? And get access
Yeah, you
to it.
can. You can
You know,
watch the whole
and I'm
thing now on
listening
the
to it,
Patreon.
so it's worth it. Get out there and sign up for Kip's Patreon, whatever.
Patreon.
We all have those, by the way. So
Yeah.
you guys can support us through our own patrons. But I think that's probably a wrap. David, what's going on with you?
I've got
Going back to bed.
Oh yeah, probably.
Mhm.
It's what is it? It's 11 p.m. now. No, I'm kidding. No, no.
On
I've
the
got
14th.
I mentioned at the start, Deep Drinks has I've been doing any live episodes of Deep Drinks, but I've got a lot of cool recordings coming up, and I've also got a video that I've been working on for a long time that is going to come out soon. It's I put a lot of editing into it, and it's going to be a good fun one. So it's about apologetics. I'll just say that much at this stage. So it'll be good.
Nice.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, I think that does it for us. Let me see if I can find the right outro here. And I have too many, you guys. There we go. Okay.
Thanks everyone for being here.
Got it. Yeah. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great Sunday. All right. Later.